The greatest power you possess is your ability to choose. Join Lowe's Moore as he reveals how you can begin to maximize that power by exploring yourself on the deepest levels and committing to making lasting and positive changes. Get ready to achieve breakthroughs that will lead to accelerated growth and transformation, because you are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
Why the actions contradict the lamb. I'm fellowshipping when I'm with the fam. That's more relations, that's forming a phonic.
Good morning. This is Lowe's Moore, and I want to welcome you back to the Blueprint Podcast. I know you guys all know my favorite word when I come on the podcast. I'm excited. I am excited. I'm excited. In terms of transitioning, right? Transitioning, and some of us don't like to hear this in regards to the end of summer, right? It's just the craziest thing. Nobody wants summer to end. We can't wait for winter to leave, but there's a purpose in the changing of the seasons. Just on yesterday, somebody's, I'm in New York. I'm in Mount Vernon, New York, and somebody said to me, man, New York is no longer for old people, right? I don't consider myself old. I'm getting older, but and people started moving south. They started moving to North Carolina. They started moving to Florida. Every day I hear somebody say, "I just built a home in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm building a home in Florida." People are just getting out of New York. Right. But we like it to be the same weather. I love California weather, man. All year round. I was in San Diego playing with the Clippers back in the day, man. And that was like heaven on earth. It was just perfect, except for every now and then it used to rain and not stop. And then you get those mudslides. So there's no perfect place. Right. There's always something wrong with wherever you go. And but the key is we're transitioning from summer to fall into winter. And I know, hopefully don't get depressed. You hear me say this all the time, man, wherever you wake up, right? Coach John Wooden said, make every day your masterpiece. Right. Enjoy every day, right, that you wake up, regardless whether it's hot or cold, wherever. Right. But if you get an opportunity to transition from New York to another improvement of weather, whether you can be comfortable all year round, man, God bless you, So, yeah, let me drop this ball here. Yeah, this is my seed. Right. I drop it every week because I believe that the blueprint is like a seed. Right. And every interview, right, gives off a ripple effect. Now, somebody going to be blessed by today's show because they're listening right now. Somebody will listen right now, but it won't sink in for a few months or next year. You'll hear something that one of my guests have said and you will remember it. Right. But somewhere down the line, it's going to give a ripple effect. So I'm going to drop that now. And we're about to get rolling. And I'm going to enjoy these last few, I want to say to everybody, happy Labor Day. Thank you for joining me on my Labor Day weekend special. Right. Saturday morning. Usually we're on Sunday evenings from 7 to 8:30. But we're here on Saturday. I wanted to, because sometimes, man, if you got Monday off, man, you don't want to take time to watch Lowe's, when you could be with your family, man, you got Monday off, you could be chilling out. So I said, I give you a reprieve on Sunday. Right. And come on Saturday. And, so let's get rolling here. I want to start off with my book of the week. Yeah. Your recruiting playbook. Stephen F. Binderhoops Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about this, a little bit more about this a little bit later, but this is the book of the week, man. And I had the privilege of seeing Steve um, doing a couple of sessions a few years ago. I think is just the greatest thing, right? Because everybody, when you see your kids, sometimes you look at them, and particularly if you played sports, or even if you haven't played sports, right? You always imagine that my son or my daughter somewhere down the line is going to get a is going to get a college scholarship. I mean, actually, you guys know, I played in high school and received a full scholarship to West Virginia University, and got an opportunity to be drafted in the NBA. I had no idea, right? No idea about what a student athlete was. I just happened to be talented enough to play well, and then people started sending me letters. But it doesn't work out like that for everybody, right? I used to tell kids, look, hey, if you got a favorite school you like, I mean, if you're a student athlete, you got a favorite school you like, I would say, look, pick out 3 to 5 schools, right? And learn about those schools in each division, right? It could be a community college, it could be a Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, and hey, where would you like to go? Would you like it to be cold? What's the weather like? I mean, I'm sure Steve is going to talk about some of those things today, but yeah, all those things matter. And sometimes, man, we just go in it blindly. We don't know what's going on. But this is a great tool, a great instrument that can be used for particularly for parents who have or starting their kids out at at one trying to be a student athlete. So this is it's a guide. Make sure you get it right. And wherever Steve is, look at his schedule, wherever he is speaking about this, hey, make sure you go and check him out. So that's my book of the week. And now here's my word of the week. Playbook. Yeah, everybody's got to have a playbook. Not only in sports, right? But you got to have a playbook for life, right? You got to have a guide, and that's what the book is it's a guide. But in life, you ought to have a playbook as well, for your life. Where do you see yourself going? You got to take it from the dream state from the vision and dream state into the reality state. Man, you got to write stuff down, right? Write the vision, make it plain, line upon line, precept upon precept, right? You got to have a vision. Mine started in 6th grade. I wrote it down. That was the first thing I did. I wrote it down, taped it on the wall every night that I would lay down, I would turn that light off, and there would be my dream, right? And then every day I was clicking that thing on and off until I start to ask the question, hey, how do I achieve that dream, right? And you start to put that playbook together about how you're going to achieve your dreams and your goals. So that's my word of the week, the playbook. And now for my Hill Harper, Pierce Harper affirmation quote moment, right? Let's check this out. It says, you become unstoppable when you work on things that people can't take away from you. The things like your mindset, your character, your your personality, and your transparency, your entire being. Right? I like that. Those are some of the things that you need to work on. We don't think about our mindset. We don't think about how important our character and personalities are, and being transparent and how powerful that is. You become unstoppable, right? You become unstoppable when you work on those things. And then here's my movie and music for this week. Oh yeah, I was watching. I think the only living Temptation was Otis. Yeah, Otis. I think Otis is the one with the deep voice. Almost like Barry White. Papa was a road. The guy with the high voice and the guy with the deep voice is the ones I always remembered because it was something unique about their voice. But this is the Temptation, my music of the week, my girl, right? And of course, they had many hits, right? The Temptations, man. When I was a young kid, man, who didn't know anything about the Temptations, right? So, hey, sometimes you got to just put this in your playlist. You got to put all the old stuff in your playlist, along with your new stuff, along with your jazz, along with your gospel, along with your rap. You got to have it in your playlist. You got to have some old school. You got to have some Temptations. What's to have a playlist and no Temptations, right? And then, man, Jordan Peele, man, he did it again. We were watching this this movie. I think it was last weekend as a family looking at, and we used to always. This is one of our favorite sayings. Nope. Go in that room over there and get my mom used to go back there and is the lights on? I mean, I'm not going back there if no lights on. No, going back in my room and no, I'm not going. So that we watched that movie last week. That was a funny movie. Jordan Peele is trying to help us get over our fears. Keep working, Jordan. I mean, I'm still working on my fears, but awesome movie. Enjoyed it a lot. And so nope. Y'all remember that, right? Nope. But anyway, here's my I want to do a birthday shout out. Yeah, to my son, Dakari, man. He, nobody has more fun than Dakari, man. I mean, I used to thought I thought that, when I could engage people, right? And I was pretty good at getting to know people. Once I get familiar, for me, it take a little time to warm up and to have people grab a hold of who I am and my personality and say, man, I really like that guy. He funny, Dakari doesn't wait to warm up. He just jumps in, right? And he makes everybody, I've never seen him go anywhere that he didn't come out knowing somebody's name, making somebody's kid feel comfortable. I mean, we actually on vacation and, the kids were, was about to go into this underwater cave. Right. And there was a lady there, a mother there with her two kids, and they looked like they was in shock, like, oh, and there was Dakari. He's like, oh, it's going to be great. Everything's going to be wonderful. What's your name? He knew by the time he left the little bus, man, he knew everybody's name on the bus, what they did. Right. I want to say, man, that's a great gift to engage people and build relationships. So happy birthday, Dakari. Man, love you. I hope you had an awesome birthday. So, and, give a shout out to the fireman. Yeah, he's a fireman. Yeah. Hey, what would we do without firemen and policemen? Yeah. So, again, let's jump right into this. I want to next week, Dr. Kiba M. Rogers, right? She's going to be great. Next week, man, we what we are dealing with around the world and our mindset and how we think and, all these different things. We need to hear from her, because as well as we need to physically grow, right, and as well as we need to be educated, right, we need to know how to work on our thinking, right, and because we're in this crazy time where we need to hear from people who know about working on our thinking. Right. So I'm looking forward to her interview next week, back to Sunday at 7 p.m. So and so without further ado, let me show you this highlight. And then I'm going to introduce my guest for this week. to the Blueprint Podcast. I want to welcome Steve Bender. Steve, good morning.
Good to see you, Lowe's.
Yeah.
Happy to
Hey,
be
a quick question. I want to start off with before we talk about get to know a little bit about Steve and family and stuff like that. Just before, I want to start with a curiosity question, right? And because I've been to the showcase before, and my son and I are planning to at least stop in next week to the showcase and and check you guys out. And you know, it's interesting because I think on the flyer it talks about maybe community colleges and Division II and Division III schools, and so the question is, you know, so many young people, we always in regards to student athletes, we always only think in the upper tier, right? And there's only a few people who are in the upper tier, right? And I'm thankful to you because there was a gentleman, my coach when I was a little kid. He used to have this where he did at the boys club back in the day called the Sleeper Classic. And because there's a lot of there are 12, 15 guys on the bench, you know, on the team. And so many of those guys don't get seen, even though they may be talented, right? And he used to bring in these community college coaches and these way back in the day, and he just built up this list of coaches from these different schools, and rising juniors. He used to bring in rising juniors, and then those seniors that were sleepers. You know, you just never know what they were going to wake up to be, right? And so, why did you think that for yourself in the classic, you know, that market? I mean, why was that important to you?
It's a great question. So kudos. Before I get started, I mean, you talk about the opening of your show with family and helping people and love. And it's one of the things I've always admired about you and Patrice, who I know for a long, long time on a personal level, as well as just a community level, that what you guys do to help others is something that's of a huge magnitude. So not only continued props, but knowing that you put other people first is something that you and your wife have always done, and the community knows that. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, Liz, it's a great question. Of all the interviews I've done about the showcase in the book, I never quite put that way, but no, it's a couple of things, right? It's being one of those players, right? Obviously, as you mentioned, you obviously came, and as it continues to be, Mount Vernon in particular, a great program, and you were an elite player in an elite program. As I tell people, I was the third best player in a two-man team. So when I was at Scarsdale, but you'll recall that team, that was a nationally ranked team, and you know, several of us went on to play in college, but I was definitely a supporting role player, but a very good player at that. So whether it's that sleeper player or that supporting player who maybe could bust out, and I did in college, but had to find the right place. So maybe there's some of that in it, to be honest. But I always have felt through the years of being involved in basketball as a player at Scarsdale, as I mentioned, as you know, we had a great rivalry with Mount Vernon, right? Your brother Curtis and I like each other in our rivalry games, you know, over at Iona College those couple of years, as well as in the park. And Tony and Ricky and all those guys, who you know well, to the standpoint of really creating opportunities for as many people as possible. And you are right to a certain extent that the elite player can kind of get taken care of itself. Part of it is I've worked with elite players to be able to create more opportunities for them, but it's more about that, creating more opportunities. So if Lowe's in the end was being recruited by 5 major Division I schools back at then, if I knew you, I could have sat down and, okay, Lowe's, let's take your footprint or your blueprint of you as an athlete person. Let's make it 20. I'm not saying you didn't have 20, but that kind of idea. But it's a little bit of a different kind of feel, because if it wasn't WVU, it might have been Virginia Tech, it might have been NC State, it might have been Florida. Who knows? You're obviously going to play at that level.
Right.
So when I embarked upon this now, it's going to be my 33rd year. And I am
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am not a coach by trade. I'm a business guy by trade, but who loves the game. I still love that smell of the gym when you get in there, right? It still invigorates me in a big way. But I decided to take a different path in life, but wanted to stay in the world of basketball. And of course, being a good player on a very elite team, being involved in that community, playing a national schedule, going to Boston, Philadelphia, the city, as we did in high school, and then being a good player in college, I just formed relationships. Doesn't sound like quite as charismatic as Dakari, your son, but by the time I know everybody's name. I'm outgoing that way, but I'm reading that with great pride. Reading about his birthday wish that you gave him, and a little bit about him, and that's a great trait to have. So certainly kudos to him. It will serve him fine his entire life when you can be the outgoing one and say hello to somebody before they say hello to you. I'm a little bit like that. So being able to have a business career but want to stay in the gym, I had to figure out for me where that was going to be. So just through some networking and some opportunities, I decided to have a showcase. And back 33 years ago, the NCAA rules were a lot different than they are today. They allowed Division II and III schools to attend the same showcase. So I had ACC, Big East, MAC, all those kind of schools there, along with the D2, D3s. And then, as the NCAA likes to do, overregulate, they broke out who college coaches can go and where they can, which is still very much involved today. So I decided that I really wanted to focus on anyway the kid who didn't have the scholarship, who didn't already have the look. So as you put it, Lowe's, the sleeper kid. And also might be the prominent kid, right? So you have, let's take Mount Vernon right now. Won the state championship last year, as you know, under Bobby Semino. They went undefeated. They're going to be very good again. They just won the league title this summer down at Riverdale. He's sending 4 or 5 kids to the showcase next week. And they're as good as you get in the New York Met area, if not the best, including the city. And he knows that he's got to get his kids more looks because maybe it's some of his bench kids or some of the lesser tier top kids who aren't a Lowe's more elite type, where they're already ringing on their, knocking on their door to get that look. I'm the place you come to for that.
Awesome.
So all of the guys out there who want to help the Division II, Division III kid because in their eyes it's not sexy enough. To me, it is sexy enough to be able to have a kid walk in the Purchase College gym next week, and it will happen, who's not being recruited at all, and who will leave with 4 or 5 colleges reaching out to them, saying, you know what, we like the way you played, the way you comported yourself. Obviously, I put together a player roster with all the vitals of the kids so that your GPA might be as such, or the type of player that they are, the position that the college needs. And all of a sudden their phone starts ringing 48 hours later, or email, whatever the case may be. And some kid might be getting a financial aid ride to Springfield College, where if he didn't get that through my showcase, he might not be going to college at all. That's the kid I have. And that's what makes me want to do it to this day.
Wow. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to start off. I wanted to digress. We're going to come back around. We're going to circle back around to this. But I wanted to start off with that. I wanted people to hear that because there's so many parents, as you know, that started their kids off in 6 years old, playing basketball. They've been doing this for some time and go through that whole process. And then at the end of the day, say, what's now? What happens now? How do coaches, how do my kid get recruited? How do you get seen? Because a lot of the AAUs, right, when in your early years, college scouts are not there. There's nobody watching in the early stages. That's your development stage. Right. And then somewhere down the line, if you're playing on an AAU team that doesn't go to places where colleges ultimately are, what college coaches are, you're not being looked at anyway. Right. And you had mentioned earlier, most college coaches want to see players in person, even though during the pandemic, they were kind of pressured or, they had no choice. They had to look at you on video, or streamed. So, and so, I want to get back to that, but want to get to know a little bit about Steve, family. So talk a little bit about, mom and dad growing up, if they're siblings, Talk about that process, man, that led you to become, because I like to focus on the importance of family, the importance of education, and the importance of faith, because you got to have, you know, uh, those are my three keys to success. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a terrific question. Well, if nothing else, I try to find myself be grounded every day. When you talk about faith or you talk about kind of knowing who you are,
Hmm.
I try to be as ambitious as I can, but also stay grounded. Or in other words, stay as humbled as you can. Because I have been pleased, I've been benefited from a lot of success in life and continue to be, but knowing, as Michael Jordan, one of his many famous quotes, he's failed an awful lot to be successful.
Yeah.
Right? And we all have those trials and tribulations. I got that about 95% right, but you certainly get the quote that I'm talking about with him. And family is an important part of that. Certainly from where I came from, I had the very fortunate opportunity to grow up here in Westchester County and be part of a very solid household. I'm even more blessed that both of my parents are still alive and healthy to this day in their late 80s, and still a very active part of not only their own lives, but what we do as a family. They're still able to travel and do things together, and I certainly see them at least every week, if not more. So having that connection, that foundation of family, I've certainly been blessed for, and it's still important to this day. I have a younger sister who lives in Manhattan, and an older brother who just relocated to Washington, D.C. So they're also be part of that, not only that family foundation, but also have what we've done as a family be part of their lives. And then it comes down to your own type of immediate family. And you guys know my wife and children particularly well through the years. Married to the same woman, thank God. Almost 33 years. She hasn't caught on yet, as I tell people. There you go. Nice. Okay. I like it. Wow. You guys are pretty. There we go. Thank you. As they tell, I definitely married up. So, but
Me too.
on every level. So, for 33 years almost, the old saying goes, I married my best friend. And it's certainly the anchor and the core. Personality wise, we're a little bit different. The all opposite things attract. But as you know, that's the beauty of the balance. And
That's right.
I continue to learn from her, quite a bit. And you guys know my daughters extremely well, through the years. Smart, but loving and caring of others first, which is something as a family that we often talk about and act upon to this day, again, because having the opportunity to grow up in Westchester and more importantly, Scarsdale, which is a community that allows for a lot of things in life for you, using that opportunity to make other people's lives better. And that's kind of what we raised in our own household, Stacy and I, who's my wife, with our two girls. And as they've embarked upon, their own lives, who are now in their late 20s, and Stephanie is a partner at her young age at an investment banking firm in the city and lives in Manhattan and doing very well. And Carolyn and her path, also they both played in college, as you're aware of, and Carolyn after college decided to go work at Google as well as play, professional basketball overseas in Dublin. Loved it, and they won a national championship there, and then decided to go on her path to have a master's in business. Now she works for a big media tech firm in Manhattan. So raising strong, confident children, as you and Patrice have, was very important to Stacy and I, and for me in particular. Raising daughters, raising sons, I'm sure, is great too. A lot of buddies have them. Raising daughters, you want that extra level of confidence and motivation, saying, I'm not going to wait for anything else. I'm going to go make my own mark. And then when the love of your life and other things fall into place, and as you know, Lowe's, you and Patrice being God-fearing and religious people, some of that will take care of it itself, it being God's way, right? Some of that you can't quite control yourself, but the way you comport yourself, how hard you work, your aspirations, your goals, you can create yourself still with God overlooking all of that, but some of that, way you can obviously take into your own hands. And I'm really happy for Stephanie and Karen, again, who well, that they have done that. And as we talked before we got on air, you're as happy as your unhappiest child.
Right.
There's always trials and tribulations, and we deal with that. But knowing that the sun will still rise in the east and set in the west, and continue to remind yourself you're on the right path, you can continue to push through. And I think that's important part of our family makeup. But, on a personal note, I was one of those kids, and, as a youngin', severe learning disability, ADD, was on medication, bouncing off walls, doing that kind of stuff. So, for your viewers who maybe are going through some of these things, and like I said, being blessed to having a successful life so far, on and off the court and in and out of the boardroom, as I tell people, it's not a straight path. It's going to be zigzag as you kind of move. Right? But the good news is I never stop moving. And that's the key thing. Pick it up and just keep going forward. And knowing you get smacked in the head a couple of times, the shoulders, in your gut, that's the important part, especially as we get into the whole, recruiting aspect, because it's over a long haul that happens. But, on a personal note, sometimes when they see people interviewed on a show or on a podium speaking, their life must be perfect. Well, I think in a lot of cases, I'm blessed to step back and, versus others and take that position. Because again, I want to stay grateful and humbled and blessed. But in my own personal journey, having learning disabilities, I mentioned, and attention deficit issues and things like that, which you always have to deal with throughout your whole life. But you learn to cope and then find what your path is, and stay motivated, which I always have, still am to this day. I turned 60 in a couple of months. So I stay extremely driven in what I decide to do and make sure it's the best it can be. And this part of my life, as I've always done with the showcase in particular, which we mentioned is 33 years young, the focus is how can I help my piece to always help somebody else? And that's what the show is really about. It's not a money making. It's not a business for me. I generate some revenue to offset some of the costs I pay for myself, because it's important to continue to have this platform that it can help change kids' lives. And what I like about it, as I mentioned, Lowe's, and you've been there, is that kids' life will be one way when they enter the gym next Sunday at 8:30. And their lives for most of them is going to be a little bit different when they leave at 2:30. Right. And to me, that's a cool thing. That's a cool thing.
Yeah. And so next Saturday, tell us next Saturday where the showcase is.
Sure. It's actually Sunday, if I may.
Sunday. Okay.
Taking great respect to the world of 9/11. The showcase is on Sunday at 9/11, just because this is the actual Sunday in September. That works really well for college coaches to leave campus and come scout, recruit the kids. So respectfully, it was not ideal for me to put it on 9/11 date, because knowing what our country went through, but knowing a lot of those people want us to continue to help people, that's what this event does. So we indeed scheduled on 9/11. But anyways, the 33rd annual Binderhoops Premier Basketball Showcase. It's at Purchase College. And we have 85 to 95 players come together for about a 5 to 6 hour period. They go through skills and drills. And you'll know, your good friend, Marshall Reef, one of the all-time greatest winningest coaches in Westchester County history.
Yes.
And had a teacher and basketball alum. I go back a long way with Marshall. As I tell people, I played against Marshall when he was the assistant to Tony Fiorentino at Mount Vernon. That's how far back we go. So, it was the type of thing that we just have managed a friendship through the years. And as you know, him being an elite coach and personality in the area, and obviously he's retired from that part of his coaching. He helped me launch the showcase, and we do it to this day. Because you mentioned family, he's part of family, right?
Yeah.
He's still very good at what he does. So he helps me run the basketball part for the day. So we bring players together. It's as far south as Philadelphia. Have some players coming from Maryland this year, all the way up to Philadelphia, obviously the New York Met area, into New England, that come down and they go through skills and drills. You're put on a team. Pardon me. Everything is random. So if you do come down with some of your teammates, you don't play together, because I want everything to be equal. You go through some scrimmaging. You have an assigned jersey that you get to keep for the day. So if Lowe's Moore is coming down and you're number 11, all your personal information is put on a player roster that's given to every college coach that comes through that door. So as they're following Lowe's Moore, the other 85, 90 kids, they have a roster of them to be able to evaluate the kids. And there's some things that are very important that's different about my showcase versus others. And to a listener and people who come, when they've experienced it, they see this, is that I do everything in one gym. So Purchase College, as you know, years ago, Lowe's, this is probably back in your day. That's where the Knicks used to train, right? Until they built their facility.
That's right.
So they renovated that gym a long time ago. Still remains a very nice facility, and the college's credit, they maintain it for especially a D3 place. But they're blessed to have 3 courts in there. So I have all 3 courts going at the same time. I don't use a satellite gym on the campus. I don't rent down Manhattan College down the street, which is a beautiful place. They got a great staff down there as well. They actually attend the showcase as well to recruit the kids. But I don't want people leaving the gym. I even feed the college coaches for the day for free. They come in, they check in at 9:30. They get a breakfast from me. They get a chair, and they can watch all 3 games, all 3 courts for 5 hours, unfiltered, except going to the men's or ladies' room. They don't have to go anywhere else. So I'm bringing, if you will, the mountain to all the kids, right?
Right.
So, and the reason why that's a big deal is that if a coach is going to even a different gym on campus, they're losing time seeing kids play. So if Lowe's is playing or playing well at a particular time and coaches left because they went to go get a meal, which is understandable,
right,
or around the gym to see other kids play, understandable again, well, they miss Lowe's play. That's a big deal when you stop and think about it for a moment. So that's why, to me, it's not about the money. I could take more kids, and I don't, because there's such demand for the showcase. So it's not about the revenue for it. It's about how the kids who do come get the most court time, because those numbers work for the amount that you play, plus you get a rest, you go back and play, so on and so forth. And you're getting exposure to college coaches. And that's what's different. A lot of showcases take a couple 100 kids. It costs more money. They have multiple courts. You might play 20 minutes every 2 hours. And I'm not here to judge anybody else. But again, think about it, Lowe's. I'm a non-high school coach, non-AAU coach, not to mention I raised 2 female players. Obviously doing this for a long time, and I'm very connected into the high school and travel coaches scenes after all these years. People know what I'm about by not being a fellow coach, to put this on what my motivation is. And that speaks volumes to the value and credibility, if I made, of what I'm doing.
right.
Because it'd be easy for these guys to try and start this on their own and do it. But all the years of being able to do this and the service that it provides for the right reason of helping young people, in this case, young men, coaches say, you know what, I don't need to go anywhere else. This is where I'm going. Not to mention the cost is extremely reasonable, et cetera. So, and then beside the 85, 95 players that you'll have for the day, Lowe's, this is the other thing. You're going to get north of 70, 75 college coaches there for the day. So even back, you go to any AAU tournament, any showcase today, over one day, there are some AAU tournaments who won't get 80 coaches for a weekend.
That's true.
I get it for 5 hours. They come in, I have them come an hour later because I want the kids to get settled and stretched and warm before the coaches walk in the gym. So they're coming from 9:30 to 2:30. So if you have 85, 95 kids and you've got 75, 70, 75 or so, 80 college coaches there, and some years it's more, watching that amount of kids play in one gym for 5 hours, and I'm giving you the look. At the end of it, either you played well or you didn't. I don't have control over that. Either you're good enough or you're not. I don't have control over all of that. But I provide the venue. So I don't know where you get better odds than that in a gym. And that's why, if you will, in a couple of minutes, why this event works. And for 33 years, is anybody, Bobby's been sending kids for, he's one of those guys up 20 plus years. I've got Pat Mang, who's the head coach of Frederick Douglass Academy, who's a wonderful guy, one of the best New York City coaches. He was an assistant back at Lou DeMello at Rice when Rice was around, and they were top 3 or 4 in the city. He goes off to FDA, start his own program. He has attended every single one of the showcases, and he wins city titles. His kids get recruited. He's not a shortage of places to go. It's just, Stephen, I come to your place, and we didn't know each other before, but we become friends 33 years because he comes every year. But I didn't know Pat at all. He could have bit me on the nose 35 years ago. I wouldn't know who he was. Right. Because I can do your thing because this thing works. This showcase gets my kids recruited.
Awesome.
And I tell you, as I talk about it with you sitting here, you can tell the energy level and I still get kind of tingles in my body saying, you know what? I can't wait for next Sunday to come because it's the culmination of a lot of work.
Well, yeah, people who think about, you mentioned doing a showcase. People don't know what it takes to put the showcase on. That's why people don't do it, right? So I'm sure there have been hundreds of people that have attempted to do it, but after maybe even trying it once, like, oh man, I'm not doing that. It's just too much work. And
it's a lot of work, and I don't do it as a business venture, right? So the dollar signs, the profitability of it is not why I'm motivated. Most of these guys and gals who do it, they're providing a service, which is hopefully a good one, and they're looking to make money at which is nothing. It's just do, and people see that.
Right.
So
it's only boys.
It's only boys. The girls' AAU scene is a little bit different in the fall than boys.
Mm-hmm.
So the places for them to go is a lot more plentiful. I did a couple of years of girls. It was successful, but doing both, Lowe's, as you just alluded to, doing one is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things. I'm doing the boys longer. So I kept it going. But I had fun trying to do both, but it just became too much of an undertaking and workload that I just say, you know what, I got to stick with what I know can really be successful on a big scale. And that's just why it's the boys.
Yeah. And so let's digress.
A couple of years I throw, you know how talented my girls were. I thought about them throwing them out there. They probably would have shown them up a little bit. But
well, yeah, I actually, you know, I've been to a couple of, I don't know if it was a showcase where they did probably younger ages though, but it was a co-ed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a co-ed situation. I don't know how that works or if anybody's ever looked at it. You know, so sure, your daughters would have been able to play against those guys. My daughter, Sherelle, she's always worked out against guys and held her own in the gym with them as well. My wife, I tell the story when I used to work out, I used to go out to the playground to work out something. You know, I work out different places, but I used to like going back to the foundation, which was right outside the projects, was 4th Street Playground.
Yeah.
And I'd go out there and my wife was young and I was maybe in college and I would pick the 4 girls, you know, my wife, Katrina Fields, Marsha Blunt. I forgot the other young lady, but I picked 4 girls and go out to 4th Street.
Wow.
You know, and I always believed that the girls would play defense.
Right.
And then my whole goal was to defend them, you know, like don't hit her like that, don't move, you know. And they would tear them guys up out there, you know. So, and you know, girls get competitive like that. You know, they don't care.
You know, talent's talent.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes the physicality in these things, as the kids get older, can be a little bit more of a challenge. But
Mm-hmm.
talent-wise, they would your girl, you know, Terrell, my girl, had no problem being out there, you know, being able to do it. Just sometimes even the less talented guys, if they're bigger and stronger, it can get to be a little bit of that issue, especially in that environment. But yeah, I remember you know, at good college programs, right? Those teams are practicing against men.
That's right. Well, even now, you know, both my daughter Sherelle and her husband are both coaching at Stony Brook. And, you know, they're trying out practice players who happen to be men. Right. Who's going to be on the practice team. The girls throughout the season practice against men. And so that kind of makes them better, get used to the physicality of the game. Well, it is even good for you. Like when I was in high school, you know, people like, you know, how do you become good? You're in junior high school, but you're playing against high school players. You know, coach throw you in there against the high school players, right? You learn to make those adjustments. And then you come back to your original age group and you're better. You know, you can handle the physicality. And then if you're in high school, Gus Williams and Earl Tatum and Rudy Hack and all guys coming back from college and they come into the boys club and we're playing against them and we're getting thrown around, but it made us better. It made us better players. So
you're right.
Yeah.
That's quite a crew you mentioned, by the way.
Huh?
That's quite a crew you just mentioned.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I used to get
back in those days. That's when basketball was at its finest, right? Makes you and I sound a little bit old, but I'm okay with that. You know, there was no AAU and there was none of this. You know, the really good college players and obviously a lot of pro players from Mount Vernon would come back. Where are they going to work out? They got to stay in somewhat shape before, you know, Gus would go back to Seattle or, you know, Ray back to the Knicks, whatever the case may be. They got to work out somewhere.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
Go back to, you know, the neighborhood and play because they're home or they're visiting home, wherever the case may be. And all of a sudden, you know, Lowe's, who's years behind, like you say, gets smacked around a little bit. But all of a sudden, when September comes, you're back in Mount Vernon, things all of a sudden got a whole lot easier.
That's right. Yeah, definitely.
They're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about working hard and getting better. And what's that Pat Summit line, right? Champions are made over the summer. If you can put
Yeah.
everything aside, say, you know what, I want to improve my craft and get better, you go where the players are.
That's right.
You're
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. I mean, my coach used to say, look, you don't get better during the season. You get better in the off season, right? That's where you can really find the blueprint, find the details, and work on your conditioning and learn the game and learn how to play. And rather than just going out throwing out the ball. And summertime is the time to get better. And let's digress for a little moment, because you talked about earlier, business, like, transitioning from school, so you, after Scarsdale, you go to college, you graduate, and you end up in this world of business. Talk a little bit about that world of business, so that, people could see, you're not going to play basketball forever.
Right.
Right. And then if they're as fortunate as you can transition from the business into something you love to do, which is to deal with sports. But somewhere along the line, you got to get educated, and you stepped into that world of business. Talk a little bit about that world of business after school.
Sure. This is no different than anything else. You try and find, I used college to try and figure out career-wise what would be of interest to me. Knowing that's really the whole purpose of college, is that personal growth time. So beside playing in college, I also did some business internships. I went to Curry College right outside of Boston. So I had the pleasure of only being about 7-8 miles from downtown Boston. So in the off season, I would go intern at some marketing and advertising firms to kind of get a feel on how business would work. Because I graduated with 2 degrees, a major in communications and a minor in management. And played in college, as you mentioned, and thought after college I'd want to go somewhere in the marketing, management, advertising side of things. But I really wanted to be on the sales side. And the reason why is it allows you to really interact with people. When you're a salesperson, you are given quotas or goals. So being a former athlete, that was good for me, right? If you meet X number, you can make X money. Oh, I get that. I can go do that.
Yeah.
Being able to chronicle or understand, if I put in an effort and results, it would reward me in X, was important for me.
Well, some people don't like that.
Some
people don't like sales. they want their money. They were like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Yeah,
but accountability, another way to say it, black and white, if you will, in terms of no gray matter. If you do this, it's how well you're doing. If you don't do this, here's how well you're not doing. That's, obviously by black, white, no gray matter. So those are the things to be able to figure out. Sports and fashion for me were always of interest. Before it became in vogue, on the NBA tunnels today, with all the way that the guys dress. But what I mean is that I decided I want to really go after do advertising sales in the media industry. And that's where I moved my career to. In the print area, in magazines, for me. So again, being able to have my account list, the companies I would call on, have those sales quotas, was a very good way for me to operate. Not to mention it was motivating, because income would be tied to that.
Right.
You reach this goal, you can make this much money, so on and so forth. So that was also important to me, just because I was driven. And then as I kind of navigated through a couple of sales jobs with a health magazine, with a car magazine, and some other stuff, I decided, you know what, I want to move over to the bigger publishing houses in the city, which I did. I was fortunate to get a job with one of the biggest in Manhattan, and did quite well there. Made myself all the way to senior management. And then from there was recruited to go over to a big media company called Condé Nast. You'll know them as Vogue, Vanity Fair, Allure Magazine, The New Yorker, so on and so forth. So I ended up being a publisher of a couple of their major magazines, rose to a senior executive level, overseeing their corporate sales area, which is about a $600-700 million division, and loved it, absolutely loved it. And your reputation, which is important, having a high level of integrity, which I've always tried to have. Doesn't mean I haven't made mistakes, absolutely. But how I treat others, how I comport myself in the boardroom, that was always front and center, and positioned really smart. And then after a good run of Condé Nast, ESPN comes calling and say, we'll publish your job of our magazine, which is one of the largest men's magazines in the world, at a couple of million circulation, 12 million readership. So we have this job open. We'd love for you to fill that, as well as you oversee some of our regional television networks. So I had 2 jobs there.
Wow. Nice.
And did that for many years. And then while I was there, I also had a third career that I was a college basketball analyst. So I would do some stuff, the ACC, some stuff out in the WAC, and several other conferences, the MAC, the Big East as well. So did some on-air work, and I was always told I had a face for radio, but they put me on TV anyway. So I love that. And then I spent several years there doing that. And then, as you can appreciate this, is the beginning of your show, getting back to family. As my girls are making their way and going on to play in college, I wanted to really be home even more. So I elected at a young age to retire from corporate life and then start my own advisory consulting business, because I had so many relationships at the levels you can imagine through those jobs, that I could help corporations with their growth plans, restructurings, marketing plans. And as soon as I announced I was going on my own, I had 3 or 4 CEOs of major companies say, "Hey, Steven, you're my guy at ESPN. You're going on your own. Let me know what you're doing. I'm going to have work for you." And I'm I'm celebrating 10 years this month, actually, on my own. And I've never had to solicit one job, if you will. So that's what reputation and working hard and producing for others can do, I think, is a big takeaway. So I just helped a company here out of Mount Vernon, actually, just with their growth plans. They just successfully, exited 2 brothers. They just sold their company to a big private equity firm that I helped them do. So that was fun as well. And obviously the showcase I continue to do. And obviously I have the book, as you mentioned earlier, Recruiting Playbook. So I've always managed with my corporate life in conjunction, as much as I love that, to also do things that I'm driven by in a passion, right? So people say they work hard from 9 to 5, and they do. It was after 9 to 5 hours. It's like, okay, what else can I do that I really love? And the showcase, again, being an example of that in the book, and speaking to high schools and tournaments and helping kids navigate the college sports recruiting process, which I know you want to talk about here today, is something that I just love to do. I can't stop talking about it enough. So it's important to blend in the have-tos, because you got to support a family. And then what else can you do that makes you happy in the off hours? And you mentioned family earlier. Stacy has been a backbone of all of this through the years, not only supportive in the corporate world that I've been in, but the showcase, Lowe's, and you'll smile out of this knowing how much of a family guy you are. My parents are involved next Sunday. My daughters basically run the showcase. My older daughter in particular, who helps me do things all year round with this, and my younger daughter some things in the day of, Carolyn, who I have my nephew come down, my niece come down. And we do a big luncheon afterwards as a family to celebrate. So it's another reason to get together. So quite frankly, the day of the showcase, I could leave for a few hours because not much for me to do, because they basically control. I got to be the mayor with all the college coaches and high school coaches, which is fun too. So I can be the face of the brand, as they say, and work the room, which is certainly important for the day. But so I bring family into that aspect. Plus they love the gear that I put together for the day too. So why not? So they're able to help me do this. So I think it's important to do what you have to do, but also do as much as you love to do that maybe you don't have to do. And if you can overlay helping people, that summarizes best what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And especially when you family is connected to it, is even better. I always love doing stuff that my family's involved in, that we can go do stuff together, man. Because that's my life. My life is about family. That's my good friend down there, Anthony Fulton. I tell you a little story about him. It says, "Hello, Atlanta Lowe's, great job. Would like to have some dialogue with Steve about educational college recruiting. I do here in Atlanta." Awesome. So Anthony, I'm gonna get right back to you. Let me see where my wife is at, because I like to have Anthony pop on. And remember, this is interactive. So if you got any questions for Steve, and because we're about to get into talk a little bit about the recruiting and the book, talk about the book, and let's start doing that, and let's see if we can get Anthony to join us maybe.
Well, the good news, Anthony, the short answer is I get on planes, so we certainly can come to Atlanta and help out with whatever you need. But you said something early on in the podcast when you got to the book of the week, but more importantly, the word of the week, the playbook. And one of the mantras that I have overall in life, but especially with the book, Lowe's, it speaks to the heart of what you're saying, which is spot on. You know, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Right? And that's a lot of what you're saying.
Right.
So you need a plan, whatever it is in life. Like you said, when you were in 6th grade, you scribbled down some things you had on your cork board and you're pulling it down and you're doing what you're doing. You're playing back to that and making sure you're on that plane of what you want to achieve. That's right. That's the plan. Not everything's got to be typed up and presented in a presentation book. It's simply writing it down and being a cocktail napkin. Doesn't matter. What's the goal? And I say this all the time, and this is one of the reasons why I think when people say to me, "Hey, Steve, what made you a successful business person, an executive?" And I'm a simple guy, to be honest. You know, I'm reasonably bright. I'm reasonably creative. Probably the biggest attribute is I'll work hard. But I also keep things in a simple way. So when I answer that question or things with this on these kind of shows or with the book, I start with the goal first, and I do this in business, and I work my way backwards. A lot of people do it the reverse. They just start writing, but they don't understand what is it they really want to be able to achieve. So whatever that case may be, so I want to go play college basketball is a goal. You want to get a little more granular. And my book, Lowe's, as you know, is a recruiting handbook guide for all sports because it applies to all sports. You are basketball guys at our hearts, but my book is for all sports. So it's the type of thing that you're able to set what your goal is, and then you want to build backwards or just writing down as you did on your piece of paper what it's going to take to achieve that goal. That's what my book does, your recruiting playbook. It talks about setting goals. And the beautiful part about it, Lowe's, it's maybe 100 pages.
Well,
is a plan. 70 pages of content, because you're getting through my book in an hour and a half. For me, it's 2 Diet Cokes and I'm done. So this is not a particularly laborious process. The work begins after the book, but you need information before you can build your plan. Get educated. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And in this world, with working a lot of student athletes, and I know your wife can certainly, grin over this one. Parents think they got it all under control and how to get their kids recruited. And honestly, they don't know a thing. I don't care whether they read my book or not. They don't know a thing. This is a couple of year process. College coaches do this for a living. They are smart. They are crafty. And I use crafty in a nice way.
I hear you.
And some aren't in a nice way, as you know. They're recruiting 2 or 3 kids. They're looking at thousands. So the odds are against you to begin with. And that's if you're good. Right? Sports athletes and basketball guys love stats. So here's a couple of stats. 5% of all high school varsity athletes in all sports will go on to play Division 1, 2, or 3 sports. Less than 1% will play Division 1. And that's if you're good enough and you get seen. Those aren't great odds.
No.
Number 2, the Wall Street Journal did a big article on this about a year ago. 2/3 of all Division 1, this is combined now, men's and women basketball players. So again, all Division 1 men's and women's basketball players. Basically, as you know, Lowe's is about 300 Division 1 schools in the country, really times 2 men's and women's programs. 2/3 or 65% of those athletes, those basketball players, will have transferred by the beginning of their junior year. So if you will, 2/3 got it wrong. Playing time, too far from home, don't like the coach, I'm not good enough, warm weather, cold weather, I can't do the school work, I don't have the support system. That's just 9 things I didn't mention at the top of my head. It doesn't mean some of them aren't innocent, but 2/3 got it wrong. From 2 years earlier, when they signed their letter of intent, they're on top of the world. So that world came crumbling down fast before you pulled the switch. I want to put myself in the transfer portal, right?
Right.
So my point is that you want to get educated with the information early on of what you need to do, the information you want to have, how you want to build yourself or your profile, if you will. So when you embark upon reaching out to college coaches, or like in your case, they come and knock on your door, Lowe's Moore still had to respond in some sort of professional way.
That's true.
You can hook up, but if they didn't like you as a person, I don't think WVU would have taken you, because there were 5 other Lowe's they were looking at.
That's right.
The career there, but that was after the fact. You made the most of it. They didn't know that. They were hoping for that. You were hoping for that, but they had no idea in the end. They had to take it based, okay, he could play it in our conference, but is he the right guy?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, come from a solid family. That's certainly helpful. All those things. And people don't understand that's an important piece of it. It doesn't mean the family has got to be perfect. But, the opportunity is, I have seen this on many levels, right? Parents screw up the recruiting process for their kids. Whole helicopter thing, right? And I talk about it when I talk live, and and obviously in my book, that, be there. The kids need you. This is hard to do. And if you have the right information, you have the right support in place, you can certainly be successful with this. But in the same breath, if mom or dad are pounding that chest, like, I got this, when they don't got squat, they don't know anything.
Right.
That's not to talk disparagingly. They just don't. Like, you're not sending me in to do that operation on your kid. I'm not your guy.
Right.
I'm not a doctor. And vice versa, right? So why would we think we're good at this? And of course, the recruiting process, Lowe's, you know this better than anybody, is a couple-year journey, if it's not longer, because recruiting in some places starts earlier. I mean, my youngest, Carolyn, was getting letters in 9th grade. And she committed by January of her senior year. That's a long way to go.
That's
Stephanie, her sophomore year. And, this is normal if you're in that world, and you can obviously play. Some girls, lacrosse players, are getting full D1 offers in verbals, mind you, in 9th grade. Same thing on the basketball side. So this is very rampant of what people say. My point is, if you don't have the prior information to help decipher and understand the recruiting process, how are you going to make a good decision? Which gets back to that 2/3 transfer by their junior year on the basketball front. Now look at it, Lowe's, as you know, and it gets all the headlines on the football side with the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Now can transfer and not sit out a year and transfer within conference if they want.
That's true. Yeah.
It's the wild, wild west. So the good news is you don't have to get it right in the beginning, because transferring is easier. Back in your day at Lowe's, you had to sit out, as you know. And
that's right.
Virginia would never let you transfer within conference. And those coaches probably would have loved you if it didn't work out for you at WVU. Why? Because they saw you play a lot, at least twice a year.
Yeah, one of my
without going to the film room, because they played against you.
One of my assistant coaches, when I was a sophomore, we had a pretty good freshman year. My team did. I played sparingly, off and on, had moments. And then my sophomore year, I just kind of exploded on the scene, but we didn't have as good a senior latent team. We lost to like 5 or 6 guys. So we were evolving. And I happened to, kind of as a sophomore, put everything on my shoulders. So, I became an All-American, 21 points a game. I mean, just exploded on the scene. Excuse me. And at the end of the year, they fired a coach. Right. And so the guy who recruited me, now they're all gone. Right. And I'm in flux, because I don't know really what to do. I don't know about leaving, transferring. I don't know who's coming in. Some of the players that weren't playing were like, good, I wasn't playing, maybe I'll get a chance. Well, the people recruited you to play, right? We're giving you the chance. Again, you have to step up and play, right? You have to get out there and do something and not be afraid. So I was contemplating transferring, my sophomore year. Yeah, my sophomore year, and I was an All-American, and I
Right.
was thinking about it. I was just thinking about it. I wasn't speaking about it because I didn't know. Right, I had no knowledge of what to do. And then it was proposed. I was going to be a high draft pick myself into my sophomore year. So, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it was to go hardship. Right. So, knowledge is key. Having the information is so important. And then I found out after my passed, after my assistant coach passed, that what ended up happening. It ended up happening was that I heard that he wanted to be recruited. He was recruited by Syracuse, who I was in my conference, and they want to bring him on only if they brought me with him. And he refused the job because he wasn't going to, jeopardize what I had at West Virginia.
Right.
But hindsight is 2020 because I should have, the way my next 2 seasons went, because you don't know when you get another coach.
Yeah.
Because you haven't been recruited by that guy, and he spent a whole year trying to bring his guys in over me.
Right.
Regardless of whether I was an All-American or not.
Which is crazy unto itself. It's not like you didn't prove yourself, but that happens all the time. Yeah,
and it impacted my draft status those next 2 years. Right. If I had the same coaches, I probably would excel. I'd have been a first round draft pick. Right. Under a guy I struggled for 2 years, my next 2 years, and I get drafted in the 3rd round. So we as a student athlete, there's so many things going on, and we just have to be aware and knowledgeable of.
Yep.
So I agree with you 100%. Is that people out there like yourself are trying to help. Right.
Because here's the thing. Exactly right. Those are really important for your audience to hear. And the beauty of the book, again, it's the type of thing is you read the 70 pages, the last 30 pages is a template of letters that you write, emails you write, constructing your profile, how to handle visits, questions. It gives you the knowledge, which is, to me, is the ultimate sense of power, again, of what we can control as individuals. There's a lot of things out in the world that we can't control, right?
Right.
The reality is knowledge is power, so it allows you to stay educated to hopefully make the best decision that you can make. So when people sit down and they read the book, and here's the thing, Lowe's, if you and I went down to West 4th Street Park today, and there's going to be some really good 7th and 8th graders there, no doubt. There always is in Mount Vernon.
Right.
And their mom and dad are standing there, or whatever the case may be, and they say, you know what? I think my son or daughter is pretty good. Is a scholarship or playing at a high level a possibility? Everybody's thinking about it.
Right.
Now, whether that comes to fruition or not, this is for playgrounds, as you know, all across the country. I'm fond of West 4th Street. As you were, I remember going down there in high school to play with all the Mount Vernon guys who were just good people. They would invite us down all the time to play, so we'd play with and against them in the summer. But anyway, the reality is get the information. So as your son or daughter, whatever sport they play, if this is of interest to them, we can talk about that today as well, because that's a whole different part of the topic. You have the information to be able to navigate. Because the other important piece of this, Lowe's, you're the anomaly. You end up being a very good player at an elite level. I'm sorry, forget the NBA now for a second. That's a whole different level. To be able to take it to a major college Division I level. And back in your day, there weren't as many conferences as there are today. So You really had to be good to play at a major Division I conference then, which your audience probably can't really understand, but I'm just take my word for it. To play at a major Division I conference, when there's probably a third less conferences than there are today, is saying a lot about the ability. But the reality is you want to have the information so you can make the best decision, because most players in the end, and I say this with the utmost kindness, but I see it too much, are nowhere near as good as they think they are. You got to pick the right level and the right school for you so you enjoy it and you can play. Because if we're staying with basketball here for a second, not unless it's changed, Lowe's, since I was on the court about a week ago, it's still 5 guys or gals in one ball.
Mm-hmm.
So the best players will play. So if
Right.
you're walking into a situation that's not constructive for you as a student athlete, it's going to
Right.
be a problem.
Yeah. So
You're not going to.
I got Anthony. Have him popped on. He down in Atlanta, Georgia. So I pop him on. This is my good friend way back in the day. And I don't know why he had to come in here with a Syracuse shirt on. I don't understand that.
Well, hello, Steve. How you doing?
All right, Anthony. How are you, Frank?
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, man. I wear this Syracuse shirt because I want to remind you where you should have been, where your college career should have ended. You know, it wasn't my fault.
Sounds like
That's all I want to say.
Lows.
Huh?
He went out
What'd you say?
for you this morning.
Oh yeah. I get it
Yeah,
because
you know what?
my cousin's at Syracuse now. Tisha Hymans. You know, she's a star player at Syracuse women's team. She balled out last year, so you know I got to wear my Syracuse hat and gear. I'm heading up to Syracuse before it get cold.
Okay, please do. You might not be able to get in.
So my daughter's coaching at Stony Brook.
Brooke, right.
Yeah, and her and her husband, and they're going to be playing against Syracuse earlier in the year. So
nice.
we're going to go check that game out. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a tough situation for them up there.
Oh yeah, it's going to be tough, but they tough though. Yeah. So Red, you had some thoughts on for Steve.
Yeah, I wanted to have a little dialogue with Steve in reference to what I do as a consultant here at Syracuse University as one of my clients. I graduated from Syracuse in '82 with a degree in communications and a concentration in marketing. But I have a recruiting business more or less in the realm of supporting young kids to get into the college institute of their choice, even though I represent several colleges, and I'm always going to try to persuade them where I have the most support. And I was thinking about what you do from the athletic standpoint will be dynamic in me possibly working with you with students on the educational aspect of this. You know, I go into high schools and recruit. I go into 2-year institutions and recruit students, not just of color, but everyone. But the focus is on getting more of the minority students in the mindset, how important education is and how far they can go by getting an education, no matter where it is, a 2-year school, a trade school, a 4-year institution, and so forth and so on. So what I do is I develop new initiatives for admissions programs with colleges to increase their recruitment. So for example, on the 2-year level, we develop a program called 2+2. And everybody say, what's 2+2?
Sure.
But when we go out to recruit or colleges go out to recruit, they only recruit freshmen. They only recruit high school seniors. So what happens when that high school senior matrix into Syracuse University, but he doesn't or she doesn't matric as a sophomore or a junior? How does the university fill that void? For instance, my client, Syracuse University, at $75,000 a year, you got an incoming class of 3,500 freshmen, and 1,000 of them don't matric at $75,000 a year. How do you fill that void financially, economically, in the classroom? So what we do is we partner with 2-year systems in the various states here in the South, and we recruit those sophomores and those freshmen and sophomores in the college, junior college level. So what we do is do a academic comparison of the classes they have at the junior college and what we have, so the credits will be directly transferable without any problems. And these students fill that void. So if you're a freshman in, let's say, Atlanta Metropolitan State College, and after your freshman year, you want to go to a 4-year school because you couldn't, you have a direct pipeline because we have a partnership with that school that will take that individual in, and that individual will be coming in as a sophomore. So he fills that void where that student did not matric. Okay, and same thing if a kid want to stay in and complete his associate's degree, when he comes out of there, he's coming in as a junior.
Right.
So a lot of schools hadn't thought about that, and this program is working absolutely wonderful. And there's a lot of kids that didn't get a scholarship for basketball or things of that nature, but I try to tell them, don't give up hope on your basketball opportunities. But first of all, you have to be placed in a school in which you like, or a school of your choice. So like Lowe's was saying earlier in the podcast about, these kids going to college and having a second chance and things of this nature. And this gives them a second chance, also gives them the opportunity to go to one of our partner junior colleges and play ball and be looked upon at other schools later on down the road, or they can pipeline straight into Syracuse, straight into Rutgers, straight into North Carolina State, straight into Ohio University, and things of this nature. But I see that you do it from more or less of a basketball standpoint, if I'm correct.
The book, the showcase that Lowe's was referring to early on in the broadcast is basketball, because I've been doing it for 33 years. The book that I wrote, Your Recruiting Playbook, Maximize Your Opportunities to Play College Sports, is for all sports.
Okay.
So the template and how you can get yourself recruited, be proactive, market yourself for all college sports, D1, D2, D3, JUCO, NAIA, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
So and I do have, to your point, Anthony, you talk about transferring. There is a chapter in my book that if you are a JUCO, community college, 2-year, how do you position yourself to go on to a 4-year institution? So I do talk about that. The elements of the recruiting aspect, it's going to be kind of similar vis-a-vis if you are coming out of high school, because the process is kind of the same. But you're hitting on something that's very interesting. When I don't care what the college is, all universities of all levels, take sports avid for a second. There's always more of an influx of kids who transfer out than who transfer in.
That's right. Correct.
So to your point, there's a revenue problem, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, it
tuition
is.
and room and board and things like that, revenue problem. You throw the sports thing on top of it all, and with the transfer rules now really changing, it allows kids more opportunity to go somewhere and play right away. Now, obviously, if you're a JUCO or a community college and you're eligible right away, you can play right away. There's no sitting out. But even there's the whole 4-2-4 rule, which is going from a 4-year college, which I'm sure you're familiar with, to a 2-year college, then back to a 4-year college, which is not, as you can imagine, it's not an uncomplicated process. This is one of the areas, to speak the topic of what you're talking about and blowing it out a little bit, is an area that most people are completely foreign to. It's a problem if you don't know the rules, because all of a sudden, the Cam Newtons of the world, for example, who did exactly
he's my neighbor. He's my neighbor.
well, who did exactly that, was lucky. Forget how talented he was. Forget that for a second, because it took his way to find, Division I, his first Division I place. He didn't play at all.
Right.
Community college. Then the Auburn story is obviously legendary.
Yeah, he wins a national championship there. Then he goes on and win another national championship in a 4-year school. Yeah, very familiar.
When you go see him, when you're mowing your lawn later today, you have an iced tea with him. You ask him that you're on the phone today with you and I, and he'll tell you.
You know what's funny? You say something about mowing my yard. I have a very big yard, and I'm coming from up north, right? Coming down here, and I built my home, and I've never cut grass in my life, and I've been here almost 40 years.
Right.
So who knocks on my door one day? Cecil Newton, which is his dad. Okay. His dad's a minister, but at the same time, he has a lawn care service business. And he cut my yard for probably the first 10 years I was in my house until his son just blew up. Then my grass went haywire. He left.
Exactly. Great. But anyway, Cam will know all about the 4-2-4 rule. My point is, a lot of athletes, and Lowe's, we were talking about this early on, right? Up to 2/3 of kids Division I transfer, and they're not all going to Division I schools. Some might be going D2, D3, NAIA. They might have to go to JUCO because school went and didn't go very well, wanted to play, go back home, figure it out, sit out. There's a whole bunch of scenarios. So this whole idea of being able to have opportunities for student athletes, as well as, and Anthony, I think you deal with a lot of non-student athletes, excuse me, it sounds like as well. How does that process work? Because to your point, you provide an important service of marrying out transfers to universities. When that freshman leaves, athlete or not, it's much more on the outflow from university and colleges than is on the inflow. Getting transfers in. You hear this all the time. The Ivy Leagues are a lot easier transferring in than to get in at high school.
Right.
That's true.
Because kids left and they have spots, and they want to fill those chairs with money.
Right.
Not complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I can't afford it. Let me go to Nassau Community College or Atlanta Metropolitan College, as you mentioned, Anthony, and then I'm going to go to Emory from there because I can afford 2 years at Emory, not 4.
Correct.
Whatever the case is. So there's a lot of the athlete part of it can be a whole overlay to that. Yeah. And one thing to talk about with the book, which I know you can appreciate when I'm out live with it, is how also do we work on getting college funded? It's not only Lowesmore going to WVU, signing a letter of intent, and getting his 4 years taken care of. And that was back in the day when my man could sign a 4-year deal.
Right.
For years, it ended up being year by year, which is now changing back, by the way, to 4. The colleges are getting crucified with the money they're making, especially at that level, not being able to take care of the kids and treat them like they're pro athletes, but not paying them, which is the whole NLI thing. But anyway.
Well, yeah, that's another horse of a color, right?
Yeah, that's another whole thing. My wife had a
back to offering 4-year deals because the optics for them is so bad, right? We got $105,000 University of Michigan football game at $100 a ticket, plus the broadcast rights on ABC, and you're not taking and you're judging these kids every year whether they come back or not for an offer. And by the way, then they couldn't transfer so easily. So the imbalance was horrible in power, which now is all changing. A lot of due to the whole Ed O'Bannon, NLI, et cetera, and other people suing the NCAA, which is now changing everything. So the whole dynamic of what we're getting to and all this, Anthony, I think the reason why you're asking is how do we educate young people saying, okay, what are these different paths? Certainly what you do is clearly one of them. And that's what my book does as well from a sports standpoint.
So, Anthony, I want to thank you for popping on, man. Great.
Yeah, anytime, man.
Man, I know about all the other stuff you're doing, but being a blessing to kids is another thing. So, yeah, man, keep it up. I like to talk further about that with you, man.
Yeah, I'll chime in from time to time, but whenever you're in this area, you always got a home here, my brother.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Send my love to your wife and family and all the folks back home.
Yes, sir.
Steve, great meeting you. And is your book available now?
Yes. You can go on my website. It's there. Correct.
Okay. Absolutely. I will go ahead and purchase that.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for calling in.
You too. Hope to have future dialogue with you. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a good dialogue. It's good to see that other people out there, providing services, man, because our kids really need to know. They really need to be knowledgeable. My wife had a question down here. Can a kid who goes to college playing or JUCO come come to the showcase to be seen by other college coaches in order to transfer? I guess it's a thought.
Yes, the answer is yes. I do get those from time to time. What I do with the showcase, it's a very inclusive environment. And this is very important for your audience to hear. I don't dictate who comes to the showcase and who doesn't. It's open enrollment. If there's a spot and you register online like everybody else, and I get some of the best players in Westchester who come down to guys who maybe are 7th man on their varsity team. If there's a spot and you register, you get it. So knowing all of that, I adhere to NCAA rules, but I don't need the showcase to be sanctioned by the NCAA because that puts a whole different strangle on what I do.
Right.
Well, this question that Patrice is asking is an excellent one. So from time to time, I'll get a JUCO or a PG kid or a gap year kid who already finished his high school register for the event. So if a JUCO,
they're looking to be seen. They're looking to get an opportunity.
And that's all. I stick to my mission. Have an opportunity, a platform for young people to come and be in a controlled environment where they can show their skills, and college coaches are in the gym. So if there is a JUCO out there and I have a spot, they contact me or just register on the site, and they come on down and they play. And college coaches love it, especially if it's a young man, in this case with my showcase, who comports himself, works hard, plays hard, a little bit mature in their years, has, you know, the academics, whatever the level may be that's appropriate for that 4-year school. College coaches love it because they can plug that young man, or that man, as it were.
Right.
No
Well,
doubt.
yeah, even we've had some kids that are in Mount Vernon High School and or some other school. They played on the high school team, didn't get recruited, knows nothing about a showcase. Turns up a couple of years later. You know, he's 19, 20 years old. Still out working out, playing and stuff like that. I've tried to. I've had some success with getting some young men to go to community colleges who've been 2 years out. They just needed an opportunity. They were pretty good students, good people, and somebody's looking for somebody. Looking for a point guard or shooting guard or something like that, and you recommend them, and they've gone on to do something. Well, actually, the funniest thing was I had a kid. My coach who recruited me and went out to Arizona Western Junior College, and he was a coach. After he left West Virginia, he went there, and he started coaching for years, athletic director. And when I went out I eulogized him last year, and I go out, and they were talking about this one kid that I sent them. Right, because coach called me up and they said, Lowe's, you got a point guard. I was like, yeah. By the way, coach, I do. I got to get him off the block. You know, good kid, smart, so forth and so on. And so I send him out. So he said, send him out. So I call him up, get him all straightened up, get his transcript stuff sent out there. So I send him out there. He's about 5'9", right? He got big goggle glasses on. I mean, like literally, like. And so the coaches pick him up from the airport, and they looking for this tall kid, and they see this kid with the glasses, and they got the little sign up, Lloyd, Lloyd, and Lloyd comes over and he said, yeah, I'm Lloyd, like that, and it's like they get on the phone, it's not cell phone now, you get a down phone. Right. I think Lowe's made a mistake, like that. Oh man, but that's the first story I heard when I went out there. And they was like, he was a mad scientist on the court, man. He just ran everything, man. He led them to the national championship. But they talked about that one guy. You're the Lowe's boy that sent this guy, to us. We like, what did Lowe's send us?
You have little faith, so
yeah.
Lowe's not going to send me somebody who can't play. Right.
Well, coach knew that. He asked for somebody, and so I gave it to him, and he went on to 4-year school and everything. But Steve, this has been very informative. Man, I've always been excited about what you're doing, and we need it, right? And we need to be aware of your service, and services like yours. Our kids need every opportunity that they can get today. I mean, one thing about sports is teaches us to be competitive, right? And so it transitions from the court to the life. Of course, the world is about competition, right? And hopefully that that transition, and we transition not only just good players, but people who transition into becoming good citizens and becoming competitive in a good way. And that's the life of sports. And so I do appreciate you, giving kids the opportunity to be seen. I call them sleepers because, there are a lot of kids who are talented, but just don't get seen.
I mean, and Lowe's, I know we're closing, but I think that's a great part of your summary there. There's a lot of talented kids in a lot of sports. So it gets back to what you opened with, and which I supported, which I support, is get your plan together, get the right information, and embark upon that journey to give you the most opportunity to see what can happen for you next. And I think that's important. And then as you started to talk about there, student athletes, employers love student athletes.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Right? They understand adversity. There's a confidence level and the winning and losing and the teammate part of it, the ups and downs. So if someone's blessed to go on to be a student athlete, even if it ends in the high school level, right? It's that whole line from Moneyball, right? We're all told, is it 18 years old or 40 years old, we can't play this game that we love anymore, whatever it is. But you can still take all those attributes of being a student athlete. You know, college certainly takes it to elite level. Again, putting the professional thing aside for a second because it's so few, obviously it would apply as well. But if you play high school sports and it ends there, or college sports and it ends there, you can take all those things you've been doing your whole life, and employers love it. You know, the military loves it for all the reasons we're discussing here. So there's many benefits of the longer terms of life that I talk about. And maybe another time we'll talk about this, but I call it hey, we're talking about the next 4 years, pardon me, but I really want to talk about the next 40 years.
That's right.
And that's what, if you navigate the college process through the recruiting aspects, can be your foundation for the next 40 years.
That's right.
For a lot of people, when I speak live, it crystallizes what we're doing here.
Yeah. So, Steve, thanks, man. This has been awesome, man. Thanks for taking time out your busy schedule.
Absolutely. Really good to see you and your wife. You've always been lovely people. And I keep in touch, as you know, with you, sometimes just through texts. And it's just good to see what you're doing, and you're doing some good stuff. And I was able to help people along the way. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And make sure you tell your family I said hello. Me and my wife both said hello.
I will.
And again, thanks for coming on. I'm sure this is going to be a blessing. People will see this today, but it's ongoing. So people can get to see it. I'll do a little reflection on it next week and make sure more people get there, particularly those who have student athletes. And it's going to be important. So again, thank you. Thanks, Steve. And I want to say thank you to everybody for for your support each and every week, man. I love you guys, man. And I mean, this has just been awesome. Steve has been awesome today. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for your support. God bless you, man. I love you guys. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Lowe's More, the Blueprint Podcast. Stay connected and follow us at our website, www.lowesmore.com. That's LOWESMOORE.com. You can also join the discussion on Twitter at Lowe's More and on Facebook at Lowe's More Jr. As always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast to stay fully up to date with everything we're up to. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
What they teaching is a joke. I ain't buying it like I'm broke. Insufficient funds for insignificant.